Welcome back to another episode of the Grassroots Tennis Podcast, a platform created to entertain, educate, and grow the game of tennis at all levels. My friends call me Ship, but this show isn't about me. We'll be bringing you interviews with coaches, community leaders, and players, along with updates about tennis happening around the world. Tennis is a culture, and we are all writing tennis history together. Today, I am here with Patrick Kypson. For those of you who are not familiar with Patrick, you may be very soon. He just recently reached a career high ranking of 271 after last week getting his first challenger title. He's also an alumni of the Texas A&M Aggies. And Patrick, how many years did you play at Texas
Just one
A&M?
year.
Just
one spring. Yeah.
I would still throw you in the alumni category. I always make that argument. You played college tennis, you played college tennis. Patrick, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Shep. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So super exciting. You just got your first challenger title. And I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people that that transition from futures to challengers can be difficult. And then obviously challengers to the ATP tour. You're someone who's dealt with some injuries, maybe some hiccups along the way. Could you tell us a little bit about maybe what you're working on right now as you're kind of trying to maintain level? What's working for you, and what do you feel like finally got you over the hump with that first challenger title?
Yeah, well, thanks. It's so far it's for sure my biggest title of my career. And like you said, it's tough to kind of transition from each level to the next. I think for most guys it takes a little bit of time, and just trying to kind of improve my game, my level every day really during practice and see where it goes from there. I think one thing that's helped me a lot was hiring a new coach. About a year ago now, I started working with Alejandro Gonzalez, Colombian guy who used to play. Was a great player and someone that I'd actually played against and just felt like would vibe well with me. And I think he's helped me tremendously, and a big part of my little bit of success that I've had here, this year, if you will.
One question that I like to ask people that I think is just valuable information for parents, for young players in general. Obviously, you're someone who recently got a new coach. What do you feel like players should be looking for in a coach?
Oof, good question. I mean, I think the first thing is it's got to be like a compatible fit. You know what I mean? You got to be able to like relate to the person. I feel like from just off the court, you got to be able to have dinner with the guy, and you're going to be traveling with him God knows how many weeks a year, and it's just got to be like a good fit off the court. And then I think once that's taken care of, then you look at the things that they can provide you from an on-court thing. And for me, it was kind of like looking, where do I think I'm falling short in a way in some areas, and who do I think, or who do I know that can help me maybe excel in those areas, who maybe overachieved in those areas that can help me see something from a different perspective or whatnot. So that's kind of how I made my decision. Yeah.
So did he retire and then you just like reached out, you slid into the
Yeah,
DMs and
I actually did. That's exactly
immediately
how it
got him?
worked.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it worked. I mean, we practiced at tournaments and stuff while he was still playing, and yeah, I guess he put out somewhere that he was going to retire, and I kind of, yeah, I just sent him a DM and said, hey man, if you ever want to get into coaching, let me know. And he kind of was like, haha, yeah, thanks. I told him congrats on his career. Then a couple of weeks later, when he actually retired, I sent him another message and said, hey dude, I'm serious. If you want to get into coaching, let me know. I'll be your first guinea pig. And yeah, the rest is history from there.
I do think that compatibility piece isn't just relevant at your level, but it's relevant even from the time people start playing tennis. If that compatibility is not there, I don't think that that kids stay playing tennis. And that's usually some advice that I have for parents when they're looking for a coach, is that, hey, if you think that your child's a good candidate to play tennis, and like you try it and they don't like it, at least try it one more time with a different coach, because you just don't know. I
So
just
true. Yeah, I think
It's
actually, I haven't really thought about that, but that's a great piece of advice for sure. Because it really is. I mean, it's, especially for kids, I feel like younger kids, like they could they could have one coach not really like it, a different coach still not really like it, and the third coach they like all of a sudden
yep.
love it. I think that's definitely like for sure a possibility. So yeah, I think once you like, and for guys that are maybe pros or a little bit older, then that's still a priority. And then I think it's like you got to have that mutual respect, you know, like as the player, you have to have respect for your coach and what he's trying to bring to the table, and vice versa. The coach has to respect the player. And yeah, I mean, it's a relationship, you know, so those things have to be kind of in sync for it to be successful and you know, as long lasting as both parties want it to be, I would say.
With it being an individual sport, I really feel like great coaches almost at some point feel like an extended member of the family. You spend so much
Mm.
time with those people. So if you're listening to this and your tennis coach isn't on your Christmas card list, you should probably throw them on that list. I'm just putting that out there. But Patrick, I've got another question for you. Obviously, you are someone that played junior tennis at a very high level. For anyone that follows junior tennis, and not everyone does, they would have been pretty familiar with your name coming up through the rankings. What do you feel like top junior tennis players should really be focused on? Like, what should their focus be during their development?
um I think as you get older, like juniors, I don't know how young you're talking in terms of juniors, but I kind of
It's
think of like,
wherever you want to take the question. It's well, what do you,
yeah,
if you if you're
I kind
if
of
you want
look
to
back
bullet
on.
point at 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s, we'll hear your answer. We got time.
I think I kind of look at juniors like I don't really think stuff starts to matter until you're like 16, 17, 18. When
Hmm.
you're at least that's kind of like my how my path went. Obviously, I
Hmm.
played a ton in the 12s. I played everything, you know, because that's how you go up the ladder, right? But when I think of like high level junior tennis, I mostly think of the ITF junior world rankings and that whole ITF junior circuit. And I think one thing that gives those guys, meaning those kind of top 50 guys that play juniors, an advantage is they get to travel to the Grand Slams, and there's almost like a mini ATP Tour circuit for the juniors. So you kind of learn, you really should learn how it's going to be on the actual tour because it's very, from what I remember, it's very similar. There's swings in the year. It's run very similar. Um, on top of that, too, you're going to the Grand Slams and you're actually seeing those guys, you know, the pros at the time. I think that was such a massive like thing to see for me is just seeing how those guys do their business. And that was kind of how I learned, you know, like I'm more of a visual learner and just watching some of those guys up close, being like in the gym with some of them or whatever. Um, I really think that was important for me, and a lot of the guys that I know as well have said some similar things.
I think that that's an underrated piece of the junior development. You obviously want to surround yourself by people that are very talented so that you can see them, like you said, not just on the court, but in the gym, that you can be around people that you kind of look up to. But a lot of times I'll hear from parents or maybe from junior players that they don't even necessarily love watching tennis. And what I would say to that is watching tennis in person is a lot different than watching it on
Mm,
TV. So be around good tennis. But
yeah,
secondly, um, if you've done any research or looked into how your brain works at all, mimicry is just something that your brain naturally does. If you watch a player and you're impressed by them, you will subconsciously start to
for sure.
copy what that
Yeah,
player is doing. All of a sudden, you will change the snap slightly on your second serve because you saw someone else doing it, and you may not even be consciously doing that thing. Or you might watch the way somebody split steps or the way they return serve or get ready as they, some people do different patterns and different things as they move into return serve, whatever it might be. You pick those things up and you get better at tennis from watching tennis. So,
yeah.
yeah, I definitely think that's an underrated piece of the whole thing. So, I think there's a couple different things that anyone listening to this could definitely take from that. You obviously are, I'm sure, working on a lot of different things right now. With you trying to make the push from the Challenger Tour to the Pro Tour. Obviously, first and foremost, if you're putting yourself in a position where you can play at your highest level as often as possible, that means taking care of your body.
Yep.
If you could go back in time, would you make any changes as to how you managed your body coming up through the juniors or even through your year of college or up until now? And maybe could you share some of the things that, like, what's your bread and butter right now
Yeah.
if when it comes to taking care of your body?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. To answer the first question, for sure, I would change some things. And it's tough because like when you're younger, you know, and I'm thinking more back along the lines when I was like maybe starting when I was like 13 up
Hmm.
until 16, 17. So like when you're starting to play more, like I was starting to play ITF juniors at 13. So traveling, getting that whole, deal going. Um, just a lack of knowledge of like what I should have been doing, like
Hmm.
especially off the court, like recovery wise in the gym, how I could like develop more as an athlete. Um, I would say that's kind of been my only regret because there's certain things that like there's a window for, and once you miss the window, you miss the window, you know.
Right.
Like some of the things that I deal with physically now are, I think, stemming from 3 years of not stretching my hips, for example.
Hmm.
You start to feel it now. You know what I mean? And you
Yeah.
can't undo it. You can only get so much more. I'm never going to be like Novak putting my, you know, legs above my head and stuff. So there's certain things you miss the window on. So yeah, that's one thing that I wish I would have had more knowledge or had a little bit more of a push in the right direction from someone who did have the knowledge. Um, and secondly, well, I guess now I've got the knowledge and got the routine down, in terms of what I need for my body to feel good. Um, a lot of people might argue that I don't have the right routine down because I've had some other injuries, but I feel like I'm pretty on top of that aspect of my game and my career. Um, but yeah, going back, I'd say that was the only kind of regret, if you will, that I had. Was kind of those younger years. It just didn't do everything exactly how it probably should have been done.
I think that stretching might be the biggest catch 22 in junior
Mm,
tennis. Here's what I mean by that. I think parents everywhere that fit the bill for tennis tournaments, they look at their kids and they're like, "You lazy, ungrateful jerk. Like, how dare you do all those lessons, do all those tournaments, and not warm up correctly for your match or
mm,
cool down stretch?" And you were talking, yes, kids should carry their own bag. Yes, you want them to be responsible, but the research already shows if you want your child or your young tennis player, if you want to be healthy, find a stretching partner. If
yeah,
you're if you are stretching and you do a partner stretch, assisted stretching, you get 15% more out of your 5 minutes of stretching, 10 minutes of stretching, whatever. It's 15% more effective because that partner will push you slightly farther than what you will actually stretch yourself. So
yeah,
any parent out there that wants their child to be successful, you can stand there and you could be on your phone while your kid lays on their back and you hold their foot up so that they can
yeah,
stretch their hamstrings or whatever it might be, or push on their back or whatever
yeah,
it takes. And they'll say, oh, they should do it themselves. They should be responsible. They should have a routine. And I'm like, if you've got a coach and they're traveling with you, like, ask them to
yeah,
push on your back.
for
If you will
sure.
stretch if someone helps you, then that's what you need to do from the time you start hitting those growth spurts, like you said, 13 or whatever it might be. And then, like you said, once you get to a certain point, unless you just give up everything else in life and become a Buddhist monk and just dedicate your life to stretching, it's just not gonna, you're not gonna go full Djokovic at
For
this
sure.
point. So
For
it's
sure. Or I mean, if you're a parent and you want to build like a semi team or whatever, a team around your child to give
mm-hmm,
them a chance to do what they want to do, if that's what they want to do. then bring in people that are, you know,
Hmm.
knowledgeable and I don't know if you want to say experts, but experts in what they're doing. And if I look back on some of the guys that I played juniors with that are now having great pro careers, I look at like Felix Denis Shapovalov, Miomir Kecmanovic, Davidovich Fokina, Corentin Moutet, Yiming Wu, Tsitsipas, a year older than me. All those guys, even when they were 16, 15, they were traveling with like coach and a lot of times someone to help them in the gym or someone help them with recovery. Um, so yeah,
I don't
big
think
part of it for sure.
I don't think Mirmir Kekmanovic, sorry, I don't think Mirmir Kekmanovic gets enough credit for how just solid he is. I really enjoy watching him play. If he could hit the ball just slightly harder,
Yeah.
he would be the definition of a freak. Like,
Yeah,
because
he's solid as a rock.
he's
He's
so
always been
good,
like that.
so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
enjoy watching him. I'm like, he's the he's it's slightly bigger, I think, or I don't. This is not a knock on Giron at all because I'm super impressed by him and I love watching him play too. But it's like a slightly more athletic version of maybe what Giron's doing almost
Yeah.
because those are guys that like you're gonna have to beat me today like because they're
Yeah.
just
Those are
so
two tough
solid.
outs right there. I mean,
Yeah,
like you said, you're gonna have to, it's not gonna be given to you when you play either of those two cats. I'll tell you that for sure.
yeah. For parents that are that listen to this eventually, I think one thing you can start working on from the time you're young is that balance piece. Like obviously you want to be stretching the hips, and I think people don't do that enough. They're always like, oh yeah, I'll do
Yeah.
the PE stretches, and they stretch like their hamstrings. It's like stretch your hips, but then play catch from the time your child is young. First of all, play catch with them. The amount of people that don't play catch with their child is embarrassing. But the second thing is like play catch where they have to, okay, you have to take 3 steps and you have to land on one foot when you catch the ball. And if your other
Yeah.
foot touches the ground, it doesn't count. Like something with balance, anything with
Yeah.
balance.
Just learn how to be an athlete, really. I mean,
Yeah,
learn how to like do different things. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to say it other than like just developing athleticism. I
Did,
think that's like such an important thing. I used to play hockey as a kid, ice hockey. Not till I was very old because I started traveling for tennis, but up until I was, 10, 11, I played 4 years of ice hockey while I was doing tennis. I did baseball and other things too, but I really did, for the most part, hockey and ice hockey and tennis.
that
And I
was what I
think
was
that
going to
helped me
ask
a
is if
decent
you
amount.
cross trained. And I thought I'd seen somewhere before that you had played some hockey, which is not the
Yeah.
normal cross train for your standout tennis player. But I think that would be a great one just from a balance, core strength, ankle strength. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of positives that could come from that. Obviously, similarly to like whenever Yannick Sinner talks about his skiing,
Mm.
it's not the normal cross train that people hear about, but it's obviously one that's super valuable. So, Patrick, I'm going to move on here. I would like to know, and I think the world would like to know, if you could go back and give advice to your 13-year-old self, what would that be? What would you go back and tell yourself if you had that opportunity?
I'd say for me, it always comes back to enjoyment, kind of enjoying what you're doing. I think sometimes, at least for me, I would get so caught up in like maybe the results of things or like, listen, it's not always like glamorous. People think like you get to travel the world and, um, you know, it's not always as luxurious as a lot of people think, but it's fun and it's what you chose to do. So like really try and enjoy it and just soak it in while you're doing it because it's a very finite amount of time. It's not going to, if you're lucky, you'll do it till you're 35 and then you won't do it anymore. So you've got like 20 years of it and it's what I chose to do. It's what I love doing. So yeah, there's been times, especially when I was younger, where I didn't realize that. And I think that maybe adds some mental stress or some anxiety or whatever you want to call it. But I'd say that'd be the main thing. And then from a tennis standpoint, just kind of be wish I would have been a little bit more professional when I was younger. Um, yeah, but those two things are, I would say, a good couple of things to tell any young young kid who wants to keep playing tennis is just to keep enjoying it and learn and try and be as professional as you can be to give yourself a chance to do what you want to achieve.
Would that advice change at all if you were talking to your 18-year-old self, or would it sound about the same?
I think it sounded about the same. Um, I think I had kind of figured out the professionalism part by then, but still, I think enjoying what I'm doing is going to be what I'm going to try and tell myself up until I'm done playing the sport,
Hmm.
um, just because, like I said, I think it is hard you're not going to enjoy it every week. You're not going to enjoy every place you go. But if you step back and look at the big picture, like I'm doing something that I love doing. I do it every day and I get to travel and see all these crazy things and play tennis in these crazy places and just kind of having that gratitude for it and being in the moment, I think is something that for me at least you know, I'd like to keep working on and keep doing that.
So, Patrick, what do you feel like a good practice session looks like? Like for it to be a quality practice session, what all needs to be included?
I think the first thing, mental engagement or focus. One of the I don't know if those two things mean different things to different people, but that's got to be in my book. I'd say the first ingredient to a good practice is you got to be engaged. You got to have a plan for what you want to work on or what you're trying to work on. Um, I think for juniors, that's probably a more difficult part. I think for a lot of the guys that are starting to play on the tour and play professionally, I think it's pretty obvious where you need to get better, especially when you start out. So that'd be the first thing to have a plan and be focused. Um, in terms of drilling and all that kind of stuff, I think it's total personal preference. Um, serve and return plus one, I think is huge. I think I know from my experience, I've there's been times where I haven't practiced returns for, you hit returns at the end of practice, you hit serves at the end of practice, but like I feel like when I'm serving and returning my best, it's because I've gone out there and done like actual serve practice, or I've had my coach come out and I have to hit 50 returns to one spot, like a specific kind of dial it down even more, you know. But that just goes back into the planning stuff and having a purpose behind the practice. Um, so yeah, personal preference, but as long as you're having an intent with what you're doing, I think that's the end goal. You can go out and hit cross courts or do two cross one line, but if the player doesn't understand why he's doing it or what they're trying to get out of it, then I don't know how beneficial it is. Anyone can do cross or two cross one line, but if you kind of tell the player, you can let the player visualize why they're doing it. I think at least for me, that you can visualize it, you can see it. You're invested in it more, I think.
I think purposeful practice is essential, and I hear so many pieces of that and everything that you're saying. Mindlessly hitting balls, you're not going to improve as quickly as someone who actually gets out there with a plan or has intention. Whenever I introduce a drill for a player, I usually try to explain to them the skill we're using, uh, when they would use it in a match. Like, when are
Yep.
you going to use this and how are you going to use this and why it's
Yep.
important? I start
Yep.
with those three things because if not, why are we practicing it? Um,
Sure.
so
I
that's
think too, yeah, going back to the kind of visual thing, I think basically what you're doing is like sometimes I'll sit down, my coach will watch a match or we'll watch, if I have practice recorded and we'll see one shot or one specific pattern. And then we go out there and we do that one specific shot, one specific pattern because your mind is fresh off of seeing it and you can actually like, I don't know, I feel like you're more engaged in it in that way, at least for me, as it being kind of a more visual guy. Um, but yeah, same kind of lines as what you just said, I think.
I a lot of times will, even before we try to do the drill and I explain it, I'll bring up a video of someone else doing the drill that we're trying to mimic or trying to do so that they can
Yeah.
see someone else executing it. The fact that you can go through and watch the things in your matches that you're really wanting to work on at your level, I feel like is essential. I feel like you really need to put yourself in that moment so that
Yeah,
when you're going to hit that ball, and so that way it's like second nature when you're actually trying to execute that on a big point in the match. Yeah, no,
for sure.
I think, and like you said, the serves and the returns, it drives me crazy. People are like, oh yeah, I hit serves for 5 minutes at the end. I'm like, well, what starts every point in
Yeah,
tennis? It's the
yeah,
serves and the
it's
returns. It's
so
huge.
true. And then I guess if you look at the data on like some of the points or all the points, from my understanding, most of them are lasting like under 4 balls.
Yep.
Uh, that's that's what I've been told, or that's what I've seen. So it doesn't make much sense to not do serve +1 or return +1,
Mm-hmm.
because that's it. There's a good chance it's going to be close to over after that. You know what I mean? The point's going to
Yeah.
be going in one direction after those 2 balls for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's time. You got to have built out time for everything because everything's important. And surely at the time that you least expect it is going to be the time that it comes out and you're going to need it. So you got to have all the tools in the tool shed.
Yes. I totally agree. I think that we've you've nailed about every piece of practice that people need to be doing. Obviously, to play tennis as long as you've had and what you've done up until this point, you have to fall in love with the game at some point, and usually that's because you're having a lot of fun. Do you have a favorite drill or something in practice that you really enjoy doing?
Uh, I would say right now, one of my favorite drills, which is really basic, really
Mm-hmm.
simple, is called it's Swedish style drilling, which is just basically you're playing a point,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no winners. And so you kind of drop the speed down to maybe like 80%, 75%. And the goal is to work with the guy you're practicing with, but there's just no winners allowed. So you're actually kind of like playing points without hitting winners. So your targets get much bigger. You're not going for the lines. The speed's dropped a little bit so that you can like have extended rallies. And for me, like that's a great way to like gas the lungs a little bit, gas the legs, while like still playing the shots I'm going to hit in a match, but having a little bit bigger targets. Because I think if you watch some of the top guys play, like if you watch Novak and Andy Murray play, that's kind of the way the point looks up until
They have
up
long
until the
rallies
end.
when they
Someone goes
play
for a line.
a
They
little
sure
bit.
shit used to back in the day, that's for sure.
They did.
They
Yeah.
had some absolute battles. But yeah, that's one of the things that I like doing kind of right now. Makes me feel strong, fit, good for shot selection and good for endurance as well.
Do you actually keep score when you do that?
I've done it both ways, keeping score, and then just going for time as well. Like
Mhm.
maybe 3 rounds of 5 minutes, something like that. Because if you do it right, it's pretty physical. And you
And you
kind of get in a
can't hit a
good,
winner. What happens if you accidentally hit a winner?
yeah. I mean, I guess,
You
and then
just
that
start
happens for
over.
sure. Yeah, you just feed the ball over. But
Okay.
the goal is kind of like keep. At least when I want to make it physical, if someone misses or if someone accidentally hits a winner, you just feed the next ball in,
Yeah.
and you just
I
you just keep going.
I do a similar drill, which is like a forced error drill, where
Uh,
the goal is to, if you hit a winner, it doesn't count and you have to replay the point. The goal is
yeah,
to put your opponent in an uncomfortable position. And then when they miss you force them to miss, then you
yeah,
get the point. But if, obviously, if you get to some kids, or they'll rig the system and they'll just randomly not chase a ball that they're supposed to.
yeah.
You got to get some serious players to actually execute that drill.
It's true. It's
Because
true. I can imagine a bunch of like 13, 14-year-olds
Yep.
absolutely just dogging that system
I
somehow.
couldn't have got that one, coach. I can't get that ball.
It's
It's
a
like,
great drill, but for sure it's getting dogged by some of those kids somewhere.
yes. It's so it just the level and how effective that is. You got to have maybe like a semi private lesson with like
Yeah.
two people there that actually want to get better,
Some more
and
serious. Yeah.
yeah, just a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
And then you're just making up rules on the fly. Like if I think you could have got to that ball and you don't, you lose like
Yeah.
seven
Yeah.
points, like
Yeah.
something nuts. I
Yeah.
don't
Then
know.
you got to make all those extra rules. Yeah.
Yeah, it just depended. You don't want to start with all that craziness, but that's where we end up if you're doing it with a crazy bunch. So it just depends. Is there, Patrick, is there anything that you'd like to, if you could change anything, is there anything you'd like to see change about the way junior tennis is currently structured in the US?
Hmm. To be honest with you, I don't really know how junior tennis is
Is
structured
working.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can vaguely remember from when I was playing like USTA tournaments.
Hmm.
Um, I remember playing like compass draws at the all the national championships. I don't know, is that are they still doing that?
They're using all kinds of formats now. I guess
Yeah.
it's a more general question. Is there anything at the college level or the pro level you'd like to see change? Or anything you'd like to see them try?
I think from really the way I look at it is I think that they're at least on the tour now, I think they're trying to do more of the right thing. And I think at least for players, for myself, I think there's definitely been some positive changes, some benefits, guys that are ranked like me. I think it has a long way to go still. I don't think there's anyone who's arguing that like we're where we need to be. But I'm not a smart enough guy to have any ideas on how we can make it happen.
Right.
Um, but I think in general, the challenger level, at least I feel, has taken some good steps. And from what I see at tournaments and from what I hear from the guys who are working at the ATP, they seem like they're invested in helping, and trying to push things in the right way. Can they do a better job? For sure. But I think it's slowly trending up. Um, yeah, overall, I think it's getting better, but lots of room to grow still. No question about that. I mean, there's 100 guys that make money. That's that's a problem, you know. Not a problem, but I mean, that's where tennis is different, right?
Well,
Um,
what people don't realize is if they're not paying attention to it, if you were a basketball player, you would be a starter in the NBA.
yeah,
Like that's the thing. Where you're ranked right now, I don't know. There's 30 NBA teams, 30 times five. I guess that's 150, depending on what
yeah,
team you're on. But you're in the rotation. You're definitely in an 8-man lineup if you're in the NBA right now, which
yeah. I
means
think
you're
about
probably
hockey all the
making
time.
you'd be making you'd be off your rookie contract. You'd at least gotten the veterans minimum. You'd have been making like 6 million a year or something like that. So
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
completely
easy.
different.
It could be a lot more than that. But I'm just saying, it's just a different thing with team sports. But they definitely, I think, there's ways to make sure that they're trickling this money down. I get frustrated. I'm super happy to see they're expanding the draws on Masters 1000s. I actually
Yeah,
didn't think they went far enough.
yeah,
Somebody said, well, they can't go to a full 128, then the slams aren't special. I'm like, no, this is about making this sustainable for people. I
yeah,
would rather them open that up to people. Um, Personally, I
yeah,
would love to see slams go to a 256 draw. That's me. But and then you give the
yeah,
top 32 guys a bye, and then I don't know what the money is, but let's say that a first round loss is $30,000 check. Now you've got 250 guys that if they make that they're looking at $120,000 a year
sure.
to make out the rest of their schedule, and that's not the greatest salary in the world, but it's a start.
Yeah,
And then obviously you got to win from there to do better. But I don't know. That's I People are like, oh, you can't change that. It's history. It's this and that. I'm like, well, we got to do something. I like that. I like the larger Master 1000 draw, and I like that they added another level to the challengers. Those are the 175.
yep,
I
yep.
think
The
that's helpful too.
175, and they added the 50s
Mm-hmm.
last year. So they added, I don't know if they added actually two or if they just kind of renamed them, but yeah, between I think it's 50, 75, 100, 125, and 175, if I'm correct. I think there's
Yeah.
5 different levels, and the prize money distribution, I think they're trying to give more in the earlier rounds, which I think is fair and accurate. I don't know if listen, Novak it doesn't matter if he's making an extra $800,000, but if you
Right.
split that up over the guys who make the last 32, it matters a lot more for them, you know.
Well, I think
Um,
for a while, and somebody be like, that's such a communist, idea or whatever. But for a while, I saw a Masters 1000 where like Alcaraz won, and he got like 1.3 million. And I looked at that and I go, why for one tournament? I know it's a Masters
yeah,
1000 that he need to make more than $1 million for the
yeah,
next 5 years, cap it at 1 million, take that 300,000, divide it back into the first round,
yeah,
and you're making a difference in growing the game because
yeah.
he's
It's
not
so
going to
tough.
he's getting all the sponsor money,
Yeah,
so
for sure. Yeah, he's
he's not going
racking
to
up
feel that
endorsements.
300K. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally see where you're going with it. Like I said, it's so hard to pin something, and like to get everyone to kind of agree with it, or because like
They don't have
every
to agree,
player
they
has
just
their
have to
own
put us in
opinion.
charge, Patrick. That's all they have to do.
Yeah, I mean, all the players have an opinion about it, and
Yeah.
but I think in general, like I said, it's going, from what I understand, I don't know it, a lot about it, but it's going in the right direction, at least from what I'm seeing now at the challenger level, is that's where I'm primarily playing, in terms of hospitality, in terms of prize money, both those things have increased. Playing opportunities have increased. Um, like I said, not where it needs to be, but better than it used to be, better than it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, for sure.
I
Um,
They're trending in the right direction, I think, finally. I think it's
yeah,
finally happening. And I think part of that, he doesn't get enough credit for it, but I've read some things where actually Djokovic has been the one who has kind of said, "Hey, we need to redistribute
for
some of this
sure.
prize money,"
Uh,
and I think he
yeah,
needs credit for that. He really does.
100%. Yeah, I think he's a like. I mean, I don't know Novak personally, but I've seen some of the stuff that he's said, um, and he seems like he's a big advocate for guys 400 or 500 being able to make
Yeah.
at least kind of a living playing tennis. Because I think about it all the time with I don't know other sports other than ice hockey, but surely from my rough estimate calculations, the 400th best hockey player in the world, he's in the NHL, and those guys are making minimum, I think, 775 a year. That's like the,
Right.
the league minimum salary, I think, or something close to that, you
Solid
know,
lifestyle.
which is what a guy who's like 75, 80 is making,
Yeah.
and there's only 74 guys that are better than him. So tennis is
Right.
different, and there's pros and cons to each. I guess in team sports, you've kind of got that like political, like you don't get picked for the team or you don't make the training camp or the coach, whatever. There's kind of outside variables. Not that there isn't in tennis too, but you have kind of more of a say at the end of the day. It's just that the actual prize pool of money is just not anywhere close to what other sports is, you know.
Yeah. No, I,
Um,
I think they're I think they're making a positive push in the right direction. And I think the reason Novak, I think, because of the Federer Nadal love, Djokovic is caught in the hard rap at different times. But I
yeah,
truly think that when he's retired, he's going to be a huge advocate for the growth of the game. I think he's still going
yeah,
to be super involved. And I think over the next 5 years, people's opinion of him is going to really change. I think
yeah,
his son wants to play. I think he sees that and he knows my son may not be a top 100 player. I have
yeah,
all the resources in the world, but it's not a guarantee. And if my son wants to play this game, and let's be honest, if Novak Djokovic's son, with the resources he could give him, he would at least break the top 500 if he
yeah,
sticks. I mean, can we be honest about it? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I don't think
physically,
there's any way he wouldn't.
yeah, he's got the access to everything that he would need. I think
Yeah,
we could lock him in that he would at least at some point hit like 250. And
yeah,
then I think at that point, sometimes it's like you might have a physical limitation. Like there's a part of your game that's just maybe not
sure.
quite good enough or something. Or
Yeah,
maybe you're not, it's not a knock on anybody, but you're not quite fast enough or not quite big enough or not quite,
sure.
something. There's something, or maybe the mental side of it's just not quite where it needs to be.
Yeah,
But I think he sees this as like, hey, these guys are great at what they do too. I think he sees also the more respect that this sport has in an international community, the more respect he's going to get being arguably the greatest of all time. So
for
why would he
sure.
not want to continue to grow the game? Yeah, I think he's
For
getting
sure.
involved now in all the right ways. So,
Yeah,
Patrick,
I agree.
do you have any tennis hot takes? Do you have any hot takes at all? Do you have anything you're passionate about that just gets you fired up? I'll give you an example if you need time to think. But the
Yeah,
other
give me an
day,
example.
one that stuck with me the other day is I did an interview and they talked about how they think lets should be eliminated from all levels of tennis. Like you should just
Uh-huh.
like a let serve, you should just play it. It just becomes part of the game. Um, I didn't
Like in
hate it.
college.
Yeah, just like it is right now in Division One in college,
Yeah,
but like in
yeah,
juniors and the pros. Um, and I didn't hate that take, and I liked his
yeah.
reasoning. Uh, but obviously, that's something you'd have to convince people. And do you have anything that you're
I
passionate
guess
about?
I don't know if passion is the right word, but to be honest with you, I don't like the electronic line calling.
Okay,
I wish that we would go back to having the everyone sitting on a chair on their own line, and then still having the challenge system available though. I don't like this like the freaking whatever series saying out, in the ball.
it
I I just
series
don't like
series
it.
out to get you today,
Whoever's
Patrick.
whoever's voice that is, like it to me it's annoying and um I kind of I bring the people. I don't know. I'm an old school guy, so I kind of like how things were back in the day and
It does allow
um
more people to get involved in the game. I'm curious how much they're paying those lines people, if that
yeah,
can turn around and you can give that money to the players or how that's going to work exactly. But
sure. Yeah, if
I
that's the case, then let's keep them out. But
but no, I see what you're saying. I do think
yeah,
it's missing a little bit of a human aspect. I'm a
yeah,
big believer
it's
that
so
you
robotic.
it
It's just
is, and
like
I can we can the call come up on a screen just for the chair umpire, and then the chair umpire initiate or execute the interaction in some way? Because I don't think you still have to have almost a referee or a chair umpire, obviously, to facilitate the match to make sure
right,
things. There's a human aspect I think you have to keep. It
for
can't go
sure.
fully electronic without that. Could you imagine if two guys started arguing, there wasn't a chair there to to do something about
It would
it?
just feel weird. I mean, even
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, even taking that out of the picture, it would just feel weird to have like just no, because like you're kind of in a fishbowl on the court sometimes. There's just like
right.
you're just like in a stadium and it's just like you and the other guy. Like at least there's like a ref and there used to be some like people sitting on the court, like
Yeah.
it just put two guys out there with just nothing with thousands of people looking down on them. It's just like there's just like no interaction or something. It just feel weird. But like I
You
said,
just
I'm
have
kind of an old school
double
guy.
double
So
the ball people because those are volunteers. Just you
yeah,
have someone
double
to hang
the
out with. That's what
yeah,
you need.
exactly.
Hanging
Yeah.
out, dapping up the ball people on your changeovers. I could see it. It'd be good. No,
So that's kind of a hot take, I guess, or
no,
an
it is. I
opinion.
definitely think it is. I think with the way anyone who's watching this on YouTube, I am sorry that I keep making weird faces. My eyes are so dry and I keep trying to fix my contacts. So if you watch this, I'm sorry. If you're just listening, then ignore what I
You're
just
good to
said.
go.
But yeah, exactly. But you look at baseball and they've implemented a challenge system of sorts. In basketball, there's now a challenge system on certain calls. I
Yeah,
think maybe
hockey as well.
yes, hockey.
Yeah,
Pretty much every major professional league is headed that direction. I like the idea of um, at the end of the day, the goal is to get the call right.
for sure.
That's the goal. I saw this. I was so annoyed. There were these people, trolls on the internet. It was Mackie McDonald playing a match, and there was this weird point. I don't remember exactly what it was. We
Uh,
all do this. The ball's slightly deep. You hit it. You played the next ball, but then you stop. But then he didn't stop because he didn't know if he
hmm,
could stop. He ends up chasing after the next ball. And then he's like, is that ball out? They're like, well, you kept playing. He's like, but I did stop initially, but the point didn't
yeah,
stop. Anyway, and then there's all these people in the comments like, oh, he played it. He hit that ball. It's too late to challenge.
yeah,
Boo hoo, boo hoo. And I'm like, was the ball out or not? Why do we
yeah,
care? I'm like,
yeah,
if you're playing a match and you've actually played tennis, you know that if he's not there ready to hit that next ball, then he's not doing his job. And it is natural
Yeah,
instinct if that ball's out by an inch to go
for
ahead and
sure.
hit it. And then not knowing if you're going to get the call, like you should be able to go back and challenge 2 balls ago or whatever and say, if that ball was out, I didn't want to stop, whatever,
Yeah,
get
like
the
you said,
call
you
right.
should get the call right. I mean, that's what it is. You should know if the ball's in or out. Like you shouldn't have to play the ball that was
Correct.
out or that was in, and vice versa. So
Yeah.
yeah, at the end of the day, it's just getting the call right. So like I said, I don't want to take away the challenge system, but I kind of liked
Yeah.
having the ref on the line or whatever.
There
So
was there was a funny one earlier this season where Andy Murray got majorly cheated on clay, because whenever they challenge, they just go look at the mark, and then the mark, like the guy's like, no, it's this, and Andy's like, it is very clearly there is space between the line, and he's
yeah,
explaining it, and then later he's like on the internet in the comments, as only Andy Murray can, being very cheeky and letting him know, like, I totally got cheated out of a game today because
yeah, the
because
British
so and
humor.
so decided to make a point, and I'm like,
Yeah,
see, that shouldn't happen. I feel
yeah,
like there's enough money, we have this technology, we should at least have the challenge system in play for everything, like you said. So
for
hopefully
sure.
they'll keep, maybe as they go to, if they've said the ATP is taking the stance they want to go fully automated. I
Yeah,
hope that they'll let the chair umpire be extremely involved in maybe the talking, the calling. It won't feel like you're playing and Siri, Big Brother from above is making it super awkward and weird when
yeah,
you're playing. I'm hoping there can be a human aspect to it too, but yeah, it's
yeah,
definitely different.
yeah.
Super
It's
different.
evolved for sure.
It
Like
has.
everything else, right? Everything is
Yeah.
evolving. So
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Patrick, could you tell me what is your happiest tennis moment?
ooh, a couple stick out. I think winning Kalamazoo was up there for sure.
Pretty solid.
Um, yeah, that was it. Probably my biggest at the time. That was my biggest tournament that I won, just because of the opportunity that I got from it. Just to play in the Open, just to play in the U.S. Open too was I mean, as a
Yeah.
17-year-old, or yeah, 17 at the time, was you know amazing.
I should have probably included that in your intro because that's a pretty solid accomplishment. I'm not gonna lie. That's I
Yeah,
remember when you won
one of my
that and I was
best for
excited
sure.
for you. I mean, it's I feel like people don't talk about how big of a deal that is. There's two
Yeah,
times a year, and it's when somebody gets that main draw wild card from the 18s tournament and someone gets it from winning NCAAs if they're an
yep,
American.
yep,
It's so huge. It's such,
yeah,
even if you don't do anything with it after, it's just a great opportunity.
yeah, for sure. So I'd say that one's probably that one comes to
Who
mind.
did you
And playing,
play? I can't remember.
I beat JJ Wolf in the final in 5 sets, like 6-2 or
I
something in the
remember
fifth.
now. And then who did you
Yeah,
play at the U.S. Open after you made it there?
I played a Spanish guy, Adrian Menendez, um, qualifier from Spain. Kind of I think he was already in his, might have been 30 already.
Yeah,
Tight 2 sets, and then kind of blew me out in the third. But
I
yeah, I
think
was young.
that's a tough match for a 17-year-old though, because that guy, like you said, he's almost 30, so he's got man strength. But then the
Yeah,
fact that
and
he's coming off of a win streak, coming through qualies, and he's probably like, I see opportunity here, getting the opportunity to play this young
for
guy.
sure. I
He's
mean,
not
I
letting
was
that
ranked
get
like a
away.
thousand at the time, and the guy is like such a veteran.
Yeah.
I mean, put every ball back in the court and make it an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
So Kalamazoo up there, getting to play in Wimbledon as a
Mm.
junior was awesome. I think that place is the coolest place ever. Um, yeah, then other little things, first ATP point, like little stuff like that. Those are the things that kind of stick out to you, at least to me at the end of the day.
No, I would say that you picked some pretty good ones. Uh, Patrick, here at the Grassroots Tennis Pod, we believe in giving people their flowers. Who is someone underappreciated in the tennis community?
In general, you think, like you're asking in
It
general?
could be someone you know, or it can be in general. It could be, do you know a coach, a tournament director, a volunteer, someone
I was
that you
gonna
knew growing
say,
up?
I was gonna say tournament directors in general.
Yeah,
Um, I know a couple guys that are putting on tournaments. I actually kind of know the guy who put on the Challenger last week in Colombia, and now that I'm learning more about it and like what a headache it is to like run an event, at least like a professional event or a Challenger, maybe where like you have to provide a lot of things yourself or figure out how to get it there, and there's a lot of moving parts for sure. And I think I wasn't aware of any of that, up until probably the last 2 years or so. You just kind of show up and like the second things aren't great, like you complain about it, or you think about it. So
I
I would say
think that
tournament
running a
directors in general.
tournament, I think running a tournament is something that every if you're a junior player and you get to be about 17 or 18, like I ran my first tournament desk when I was 17.
Yeah,
I wasn't the tournament director, but I ran the desk at the main site for the first time when I was 17. It was not a big tournament or anything like that. And then like a year later, like our district championships, I was helping do stuff like that when I was 17, 18. And it's amazing. And it's a thankless job for sure.
yeah,
And if it rains, you will make no one happy. It's
yeah,
impossible. It's
yeah.
so yes, those are definitely is does
And that's
anyone
at every
specific?
level. If it rains, you can never make anyone happy.
No.
That stays with you no matter what, if it's 12's Midwest sectional, whatever, or if it's Wimbledon. You know what I mean?
Right.
Guarantee you there's guys that are like, I saw today at Wimby, there's like some second rounds that are like on the court while some first rounds haven't gone on yet. I'm
Yep.
pretty sure I saw that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those guys are not happy about that,
I would be ticked. That
It's like
dude's playing his
he's
second
gonna get
match
three
before I get
days
to play
off.
my first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the rain always screws everything up. That'll be forever.
They were trying to set a record today at Wimbledon where something about I guess no, the stat I saw was the amount of matches that played during
Uh,
the time that Isner and Mahou played their record-setting match at Wimbledon was 85 matches. The amount of matches they were trying to finish today at Wimbledon was 87.
wow.
So to put that in perspective, the rain
That's
has
crazy.
messed up the draws at Wimbledon this year for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
The person benefiting right now, his name is Andy Murray because he got
Yeah.
his match done straight sets and is getting some extra rest probably, I would
Yeah.
assume. So good luck to him. I mean, anyone who's got through. There's been a few Americans that have already. I was bummed to see Seb Corda lost, but quite a
Yeah.
few other Americans have already taken care of their first round match. It was a super tough first round for Mackie McDonald, um, having to
Who did he
play.
play?
Oh my gosh, Bublik.
Bublik. Did he get it or no?
Mm-mm,
No,
nope.
Bublik got him.
So now
Yeah,
JJ Wolf's got to play him.
it's a tough first round. A good chance for JJ.
Yeah, Bublik's such a hit or miss, but on grass he's so dangerous,
Yeah, and
so
it seems like
dangerous.
he's
He's a
been more
guy no
hit
one
than
wants to
miss recently
play.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's starting to get his stuff together. I think
Yeah.
everybody knows he's crazy talented, and you look at
Yeah.
him now and he's seated in draws, and
Yeah, and he
so
serves rockets too, so that helps.
yeah, no, huge. And then he can just
Yeah.
he's obviously got some touch, can play the drop
Yeah.
shots, can kind of do whatever he wants. It's like how disciplined and locked in is he going to be to a game plan? But yeah,
Kind of like Kyrgios a little bit. He's got the Kyrgios-esque
I would
a
say a
little bit.
less athletic version of that, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of what
Yeah.
it is.
Kind of the
It's
similar
tough.
style, similar mindset
Yeah, but just happy to see some of those Americans get through. And then
for sure.
I swear at Wimbledon, there's always Americans always end up getting matched against each other first round. And I was so annoyed that Kennan had to play Goff in the first
Mm,
round. I was like, that's a
yeah.
lose-lose for either of them because Kennan's trying to make that, get back to that level, and Goff
Push
being
back and Goff's
seated,
trying to make a
playing a
push to win one. Yeah.
playing someone who's won one before. That's a terrible first round draw. So that
Yeah.
was not a good situation. Anyway, gotten off track there. I could talk to a brick wall for an hour if I was
No, but it's good to
ranting, but
see Americans. I think I saw 13 in the main draw. I think I saw
in
that
the
on
men's,
in the men's. Yeah.
yeah, I think
So
it's more than that in the women's.
great to see that American tennis in general, but women's American tennis has been fine, but the men's side is where we've kind of struggled, and it's good to
We're
see that.
we're also consistently good at doubles. We've
Yeah,
always got someone. Obviously, the Bryans brothers are the greatest doubles team of all time, but now seeing Krychek,
Krychek's an animal right now. He's just
dude,
winning everything. Um,
I love
fellow
watching Austin
Aggie,
Krychek,
fellow
dude.
Aggie. So we root for Austin big time. But
About
great to
this,
see
about
guys
the
like,
same age as Austin Krajicek. He's only a little bit older than me, but I remember watching him growing up and going,
nah, he's a
I was a
beast.
late bloomer. I'm like, why is this dude so good? Like,
Yeah, he's a beast. He's a
yeah,
beast. But good to
he
see like
really is.
Tommy and Francis, Taylor, Sebastian. Good to see those guys. And JJ's pushing up there pretty good. So good to
Yeah.
see like American tennis, in a good trajectory for sure.
Plus, we're at Wimbledon, so this is Cressy's chance.
Yeah.
This is the
Yep.
Cressy tournament right here.
Yep.
Gonna gonna hit. He gets three first serves on this surface, right?
He always gets three first serves.
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, got it. Just making sure. I knew he had some special rules that only he was playing by, but I
Yeah.
wasn't sure what they were. No,
Yeah.
it takes.
Cress
He's
is gonna be a
committed
tough
to
out
the
for
game
someone.
plan.
He
He's
is.
committed to the game plan, and it's worked
He
for him.
is.
So
Yep.
it's impressive. Patrick, I I could probably, keep you here and talk forever, but I'm gonna be I want to be I want to be respectful of your time. So my last question is, who do you think needs to come on the Grassroots Tennis Pod? Who has a tennis brain that we need to pick, or maybe has a story they need to share? I've been trying to encourage people to give me a couple names, maybe someone who's playing actively, whether it's at any level, could be a college player, junior player that's passionate about the game, doesn't really matter. And then maybe a coach, a community leader, something like that. But keep in mind, whoever you say, you have to help us get this person on the pod because you're the man with the connections, not me. I could reach out to people, but that doesn't mean that they're gonna see the message. So does anyone come to mind on who we should get on here and talk to?
First guy that comes to mind, Sam Riffis. Sam is retired now, but
Which is heartbreaking.
it is heartbreaking. It
I
is. It
I
truly
may
is.
sound dramatic, but I'm actually, when I found that out, Zeke Clark told me that, and I was like, dude, are you
Yeah.
freaking kidding? As a full out tennis nerd, to
Yeah.
have an American NCAA champ with the talent that man has, and he's just a good dude. Like I've never,
Nah, best dude ever. Best
and
dude.
so but it was his back, right? He had the back injury, and then he
Yeah, he
decided to
struggled a
not
little bit with
go.
some injuries, and I think he just committed. Yeah, he just made a commitment to try and do something else, which I fully respect. But like
Right.
that guy's he's so sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I mean, what he did on the court was, I mean, people can only wish kind of doing what he did. So Sam Riffis comes to mind. Tennis Sangren comes to mind.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
No, he would be a good one.
Sang definitely has some interesting points. Um,
Yeah.
Super smart guy as well. Amazing tennis player. I mean, yeah, those two guys kind of
No,
come
those
to
would
my
both
head
be
off the
great. We
bat.
would be happy to have either of them. Just now I had the idea that I need to add to my questions list of kind of, sometimes I follow it directly and sometimes I jump around, but I like to have kind of a base or whatever of questions that I think, have value. But I'm just not getting enough viral clips, of people saying crazy things. I need to start asking people, like, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen happen at a tennis tournament or something like that, so that way I
Yeah,
can start getting just like that clip that I can cut and throw it up on social, and then maybe we'll take off a little bit more quickly.
surely you
So
could find some at some future, just some challengers. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on out there.
yeah,
You just
no,
got to
for
find
sure.
it, Chip. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere out there.
It exists. Yeah, we're
It
gonna talk to
exists. I can
those
promise you
people.
that.
Oh yeah, no, it's probably in like Mexico or something. I mean,
It's somewhere far away, probably, or maybe not. It could be in your backyard. You never know. Could be at
yeah,
the
no,
Champagne Future in 2 weeks. You never
yeah.
know. There's always crazy stuff going on. So,
Are you playing that?
no, I'm gonna play in Granby and then in Ecuador, playing some challengers and hard courts.
Okay, I figured you
Yeah,
were focused on challengers right now. I was like,
yeah, I'll try
it's
to when I can. When I can get in, try and play there. Keep moving up.
no, you'll be up there soon enough as long as you can stay healthy. That
Yeah,
the
that's the
injuries are tough.
process.
The
They
injuries are
are.
tough.
Yeah.
Patrick, we're going to wish you the best of luck here at the Grassroots Tennis Pod. Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing with us. And it's nice to get the opportunity to pick the brain of someone who's obviously right now you're playing really good tennis. I mean, congrats again on winning your first challenger title, the first of many, but not too many because you're going to move on to the pro tour. You're not going to have to play too many. Although Murray came all the way back down. I mean, I don't
Hey,
know. Who
you
knows
never
what the
know.
future of tennis looks like? Let's not label it. You're going to win a lot of matches, but
Thank you, Ship. I
thank you
appreciate you
so
having me
much
on, man.
for
Really
coming
do.
on.
Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. And for anyone else out there listening to the Grassroots Tennis Pod that wants to find you, Patrick, how can they follow you on your tennis journey? Do you want to throw out your Instagram?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Kypsonator, KYPSON, the number 8, TER. And that's it.
One of the more clever ats in the history of tennis. This man clearly it was destined for success, whatever he chose.
I've tried to change it 100 times, but Instagram just won't work with me. So we're leaving it as it is.
I think it's famous at this point. You have to keep it. So definitely anybody that wants to follow Patrick, make sure to follow him on Instagram. And if you like what we're doing here at the Grassroots Tennis Pod, make sure that you subscribe. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify, and hopefully very soon on all places that you like to listen to your podcast. Make sure to share this with someone that you know loves tennis. You can also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We're slowly pushing all of our content on all platforms, and on any platform that you follow us, we will follow you, because if you want to know what we're doing, we want to know what you're doing. Like, if you love tennis, we want to know what you're doing too. We need to interact with you. So, Patrick, thank you, and hopefully you can go out and get some more titles, and maybe sometime we'll just have to check in and just get a status update. Okay.
Awesome, Ship. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yep. Take care. Have a good night.
Thanks. You too.